Hi everyone, today I'm going to do the tag Colouring Book Confessions by Shell's Colouring Journey, and I was tagged by Maia at Coloured by Maia, so I've written down all the questions, and I had a hard time doing this because I had started to watch some other people's videos and then decided no, I didn't want to be influenced in my choice because first off I was not wanting to replicate the same books for the answers, but then I thought, well, I want to be honest with you, so hopefully I've come up with a selection of books that might be a little bit different, but I could agree with many other YouTubers that have already done the tag, and I found that some of the questions I could have had the same book or the same artist as the answer for quite a few, so I've tried to do my best with it. So first up is oldest book in collection, and my oldest books, I got these around the same time, and that is Millie Marotta's Animal Kingdom and the Mandala's colouring books. So initially I started sort of doing pattern type books, so on and off through my adult life I've coloured mandalas and different things because that's generally, for a long time, all that was on offer for adults specifically was, these very highly patterned, intricate type books. So that's what I used to do for a while, just to, when I couldn't create my own work, like if I had a block or I just didn't know what I wanted to create, I would come and put some gel pens and textures and stuff in a book like this. And then I think around the same time as I got this one, I got Animal Kingdom. And again, I think it was because I found that it was rather, pattern inspired and mandala-like. But I found this book to be very unmotivating and didn't particularly grab me. As you'll see, there's not a lot of pages coloured, but I think around the time that I found these in one of my local stores, Johanna Basford obviously was very big, and I really didn't like Secret Garden to start with, so I picked up Millie Marotta, but I didn't really find it very inspiring. And then I think I found Kirby next, and Kirby was much more to my liking. So you'll see that, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful things that I've tried or used this book as practice because I just didn't find it all that inspiring, really. So that's my oldest books. Next on to my newest purchase, which you might have seen on a recent video where I did a bit of a flip through, is Oceans to Stars by Lydia Fenwick. Now this isn't a new book, it has been out for several years, but it is new to me. I only just got it last week or the week before, so this one's very much more to my liking. So that one's the newest one that has joined the collection. Okay, the next one was most colourful page you've completed. Now I can show you several in this particular book that would compete for that title and all could be treated equally, and it's Creative Cats by Marjorie Sarnett. And I've really gone to town in this book. I used water-based markers and coloured pencils, gel pens, and quite psychedelic. And not all of the pages have been completed, but I tended to go from front to back in this book for some reason, and I don't really know why. But you can see that some of them are not so bad as others, but some of them are really psychedelic. And then I've got a couple of pages further on. Again, these could all qualify for the most colourful page I've coloured, I think. It's a lot of alcohol marker, and you can see a lot of yellowing. that's gone through there and actually gone through there because I had cheap markers that I was using. But anyway, I think this is definitely one of my most colourful books that I've been colouring in. And that's Creative Cats by Marjorie Sarnett. Now, most relaxing. I have to say that I find R.J. Hampson books to be my most relaxing. Any of his books. So I've just grabbed one off the shelf, but it could be any of his books. And I've coloured in a lot of them, and I find them relaxing because the art style, the way that he draws, his particular style, his subjects, the humour and so on, means that I can just go to town either with water-based markers, alcohol markers, whatever I want, and just have fun with them. So, and I find that really relaxing because I never really sit and overthink colours when I'm colouring in a R.J. Hampson book. It just, you know, it's usually bright, usually bold, and I just go with it and I just enjoy it. So this particular one, Lost and Found, I have finished. Well, the front section at least I have finished. So, terrible yellowing there from markers. So, yes, I find it very relaxing to colour in an R.J. Hampson book. Number 5, most detailed or challenging book. Well, I've chosen to share with you Magic Mandala by Lindy Longhurst. Now, this isn't one that I see coloured in on YouTube or Instagram too often, and it's quite a complex book. It's a beautiful style. Lindy's got a very unique style. And her mandalas have a theme, so they're not necessarily repeating pattern, although there are repeating elements. Within each element there is a picture, and you know, from a distance there you can probably see that you know, it's hard to pick the details out because they're quite small. So if I just come up closer, so not only is it very detailed, the actual scale of the book is quite small for the amount of detail that's on there. And I think Lindy's original paintings are perhaps acrylic. And so these have been downscaled for the colouring book. And they're just so detailed and so involved that for this scale, it's just really difficult to make a lot of those details out. But having said that, with a very sharp pencil and some fine liners, gel pens and so on, I have completed a few, and I've tended to lean towards the astrology themed pages first because that's a subject that I enjoy. So you can see I have coloured in it, but I just find that it's quite challenging, and I have to be in the mood to really concentrate and pay attention to what I'm doing, because it is easy to, you know, muck up some of the designs because they are so small. I'll just give you a quick look through the back of the book. There's some mandalas she's designed for people as commissions. And then she's got some that are themed on tarot cards. See, there's one that I haven't finished, I've forgotten about. I really should start tagging my pages because I do forget about things that I've started an awful lot. So here's one that maybe isn't quite so heavily detailed, but when you look up close and carefully, yes, there are lots of dots and dashes and so on, but it's a really pretty book, and it's Blue Angel Publishing, so it's on nice paper as well. So that one is Magic Mandala by Lindy Longhurst. So number 6 is Most Unique Art Style. And I've chosen to share with you Forest Diver. Now I've grabbed a few books here because there are some different sort of styles, but you'll see that Forest Diver's very unique illustration style appears in all of them, so whatever the subject. So this is a book that has quotes and words, you know, some inspirational words or whatever with the pictures. And you'll see that, you know, consistently the art style doesn't change within the books, even if the subject is changing. So that one's You Belong Among the Wildflowers. Then there's Guardians of the Enchanted Forest. And you'll see that I use water-based markers with water quite a bit in these books. These are older Amazon printed books, and, you know, we've got the black backing. But these were Australian, I think, yeah. So the older Amazon printed Australian books used to be a little bit heavier and were great with water-based markers and so on. You could get away with water-based markers, and I've used a lot of alcohol markers because they're single-sided. Another one that I haven't quite finished. So you'll see that there's quite a variety of, you know, subjects. Well, this one has got a subject of the Enchanted Forest, but that art style of Forest Divers, more bleed through there, or yellowing. The artwork of Forest Diver is very recognisable, and I feel quite unique. There's sometimes an artist brings out books and they're different, and then whether others are influenced subconsciously or whether they deliberately go to mimic the style, you then start to see some other things appear afterwards. But I do feel like Forest Diver is rather unique. So that's Guardians of the Enchanted Forest, and this is Hidden Spirits of the Enchanted Forest. So very much into this mystical sprites and, you know, mythical beings and so on. And then, of course, there is an Alice in Wonderland themed book by Forest Diver that I'm currently focusing on quite heavily this month, so that I can get some pages done for hashtags. So again, you know, it's a specific theme, but I think you'll agree that Forest Diver's very unique style comes through there quite strongly. So that's number 6, Most Unique Art Style. And number 7, a book you've coloured in most. Well, I have completed a few books, and particularly R.J. Hampson. Now I've got a couple of books that I've coloured that first part of the book and completed it. But if we want to talk about books that aren't actually finished or completed yet but have lots of pages completed, Worlds Within Worlds by Kirby Rosannes is definitely one that I've got lots of pages completed in. And I'll do this quickly because, you know, I'm conscious that the video is going to take a bit of time because there are quite a few questions to get through. So I find that these books have been good for me in the past, and they don't get coloured in so much now purely because I've got so many books. But in the beginning I only had a few Kirby books, a few Millie Marotta books, and a couple of Johanna Basford books. And you know, it was easy to plough through and get a decent chunk of a book completed because I had fewer books to choose from. Now I get sidetracked and distracted by different things. Now this could have also been one of my most colourful pages I've completed. Lots of fluorescent neons going on there. Same with this one. So I have quite a colourful approach to my colouring, and lots of my pages end up looking like a clown vomited at the circus. So another one there that I could have picked. So colourful pages for me is pretty much a given or a go-to sort of style. I might start off thinking I'm going to be subdued and subtle, and then before I know it, the page has got out of hand again. So, you know, the more colours I have, the more I want to throw every single one of them on the page. Excuse me. So this book is very nearly finished, as in, you know, every page almost has been completed, but I don't know if it ever will be fully completed, because there's some pages I've given up on, like this one, that, you know, I fell out of love with, or I didn't know what to do with it, and or I got bleed through that ruined it, you know, so I gave up on it. Another spread I could have shown you from my most colourful pages. This is an experimental page to see how gesso would work, and I hated it. So there you go. That is my most coloured in book that isn't actually completed. Number 8, book you love but haven't coloured in yet. Ink House. I haven't had this all that long. I think I bought it last year. I was a bit late to the Ink House party. But when it did come, I felt like it's such a beautiful book. I don't know what that is. It's such a beautiful book, even if it doesn't get coloured, because it wasn't actually meant to be a colouring book initially. It's just that everybody jumped on, you know, how cool it was and how great the artwork was, and people were suddenly colouring in there. So I don't know if I will ever colour in this one, but I'm certainly glad that I've got it in my collection. I do love the artwork, and I have seen Helen Custer Painting, I think it is, sorry Helen if I've got that wrong, on Instagram. I've seen Helen's completed book of this, and she's done a marvellous job. She's just, you know, a very talented artist, and it was after seeing her book that I bought this, but then when it came, I couldn't bring myself to colour in it yet, because for those reasons that I've talked about. So number 8, book you love but haven't coloured in yet. Number 9, a book you would save in a fire, a sentimental favourite. Well, I found that extremely hard to answer, because I don't feel terribly sentimental about any of my books, because once the page is coloured and done with, that's really the end of it for me. So I guess if anything, you would say maybe a book that's out of print, like Tomislav Tomic or something like that. That would be incredibly hard to get again. But I couldn't honestly say that I would run in here and grab it if there was a fire, because I don't feel that attached to any of my books. And some of you might find that a bit hard to believe or understand, but it is true. Okay, number 10, book with the best paper quality. Well, this one I found really hard. Pardon me, I've still got this terrible problem with asthma. This is quite obviously one of the books with the best paper quality that I've got. It's very, very good paper quality. However, the way that I work personally, I still get bleed through. Because I like to use water and a lot of water, I've still got lots of cockling and wrinkling, more bleed through. So whilst technically people say that this is, you know, a great book, it's got the best quality paper, and it is good paper, don't get me wrong. For me personally, how I work, it ends up not being any better than any other page really, any other book. So you might be able to see the wrinkling that I've got along there, and that's been ironed. So, pardon me. I know that that's down to me. I know that's down to my way of working and my techniques and so on, but that's how I like to work. So all of this here is like collateral damage that it just is what it is. If I want to work in the way that pleases me and gives me pleasure, I have to accept that that's going to happen, that I am going to get bleed through. A lot of the time I can cover it up, colour over it. But yeah, I am going to damage books, so I need to, when I'm colouring a page, look to see, do I want to colour the other side before I go ahead and, you know, potentially ruin it with bleed through. So technically I would say this is the book with the best paper, however I still tend to ruin it. So that was number 10. Number 11, favourite grayscale book. I'd probably have to say Christine Caron's Wildflower Folk. And just on that last question about paper, I'd say this has got pretty good paper, because this is Blue Angel Publishing. So even though it's wrinkled and cockled, which, you know, is a given, I don't always get quite so much bleed through for some reason on this paper, and it's nowhere near as heavy as the Fairy Tales and Folklore book. So it's very odd. So I think the paper in this Blue Angel Publishing books is actually very nice. But let's go on to the question I'm supposed to be talking about here. So favourite grayscale. So this book has got very much, every drawing has got grayscale. And I don't have too many books with grayscale. I'm not really a huge fan of it myself, but because I enjoy this book so much, I've kind of looked past the fact that it's grayscale. And then I tend to, because a lot of these images are quite ethereal and mystical and made up sort of creatures, I'll tend to factor that into the colour scheme quite often. And you can warm up the grayscale by, you know, using some unusual colours sometimes. So I would say this is my favourite grayscale book, although I don't have too many. It's not my preferred way to colour things. But because, you know, to get Christine's drawings or work, you kind of have to go with it. So it's not the worst grayscale to try and cover up. And I think if you're a beginner, it's very good to give you ideas where you should be putting shading on faces and so on. So that is Favourite grayscale, number 12, book that intimidates you. Intimidates isn't really a word I would use. However, I've chosen this book, Gugeli's Find Colour, and I've also got the other Gugeli book. I would put these books in this category, along with Forest Girls Colouring Book by Apple, because it comes down to the paper quality. So it's not necessarily the art style, but in this particular book it's the paper, because the art style to me suggests watercolour, that watercolours would be good for this particular art style. That's what I want to use. But you can see that the paper just does not cope with water at all. Really not great at all. I like the effect that I got with the picture, but it was hard work, and yeah, that it's an awful lot of damage to the paper. So I haven't worked in this book again, sadly. So I wouldn't say it's the artwork itself that intimidates me, although it is quite small and detailed in places. It's just that to colour it in the way that I want to on that paper is going to be really tricky and difficult. And for the same reasons, that's why I've chosen these books by Gugeli, the Find Colour. Now, it feels reminiscent of watercolour paper because it's very absorbent and it's got quite a rough texture and so on. And I've got some lovely pictures painting with watercolour on them, but again, the paper doesn't really respond well, and I did have bleed through on some others, I think. That's one of my all-time favourite pages, but I felt like I had to really baby the paper to get to that result that I wanted. And I don't enjoy that. I don't want to sit down and baby the paper. I want to just paint and throw water and stuff on, you know, to my heart's content and not worry about any of that. So there is that. Also, it is a grayscale book, and some of the print seems to have smudged in my book. I don't know if that's the same in all of them. So I have found that some of the images to me are a little sketchy and more blurry. I don't really know what to do with those. I want to use the light sort of watercolour colours to cover some, you know, not have that so obvious, but I don't want to cover it up completely. So when I got heavier, it felt forced, and I didn't like that. Here I've used some acrylic paint marker for a base and never come back to it because I didn't really enjoy the way that that felt on there either. That's some Kuretake Gansai Tambi paints there. So not really, I really don't know how to proceed with it. And the artwork's beautiful, so it's a real shame to not be colouring in it, but then there are some really tiny small details like that. And it's a tricky book, I think. I don't know that intimidated's the right word for it, but yeah, I'm a little bit stumped as to how to proceed with this book, which is a shame because, again, the artwork is really beautiful in that book. 13, a book you want to finish one day. Well, this probably won't come as a surprise to any of you who've been watching regularly. The Creatures of Ken Matsuda, the French version by Hatchet Heroes that I've got here, is one that I've coloured on the channel quite regularly and thoroughly enjoy, even though I do, you know, I complain about some paper because I ruin it. Well, I've done it in this book, but this paper isn't as heavy as some of the others, but I can't think of any other way I want to really colour these images other than using watercolour or water-based mediums. So even this one that I did with Languo gel pen, I diluted the gel pen with watercolour pencils. So, you know, being careful with the amount of water, you know, I get that sort of image and that leaves me feeling really flat. Whereas something like this, I love. It makes me really happy. It makes me very, you know, joyful to work that way. And the result is that I damage the paper. So a lot of the time I just have to accept that that's what I'm going to do to a book. But I have completed quite a few pages in this book. It's probably one of my all-time favourites. I love that one. There is a video on the channel for that one. This one I've used a combination of things, and I've used chalk pastel in the background on that one. Lots of Inktense, watercolour pencils, water-based markers, watercolour, acrylic inks. So I would most definitely want to finish this book one day. There aren't too many pages in here that I'm not, you know, overly fussed on colouring, so it should be achievable. So that is The Creatures of Ken Matsuda, the Hatchet Heroes version. Number 14, best book for practicing new techniques. This is a double banger, so to show you, you know, the best examples. Any Camilla Derrico book basically would be a best book for practicing new techniques for me. So this book I've worked in a lot. In the beginning I started to just colour with coloured pencils a lot of the time. So just plain coloured pencils. And I very quickly got bored with that and started using water-based markers and then wetting them, using them as watercolours, adding other stuff on top of them, Inktense. I've experimented with monochromatic paintings like Camilla does herself, you know, playing with golds and different types of paints. And then I also use these books to play around a lot more with water. Acrylic paint background. This is where I really started to sort of let loose with all the watery backgrounds, was in these books. Haven't finished that one, of course. And then I loved using these particular books to try the coffee splash experiments, where you splatter coffee at a page and then you only colour in the areas where the coffee has splattered. You don't colour any other area, so you only just choose those areas where the splash is. So I found this, you know, Camilla's work to be perfect for having a go at that. And then I just wanted to show you also in this particular one, the Cute and Creepy, look at the state of it. It's absolutely falling apart. I've tried using all sorts of different water mediums, gel crayons, I've got acrylic paint. Pages are falling out because they've got so much water and stuff on them. And then in this book I started to play around a little bit with adding in some extra things in pages as well. So I'll find one of those for you. So here I started to draw in critters from other pages onto here. I've got all sorts of different effects going on. I collaged, stuck on some stickers, pictures, you know, started to experiment with trying to match double page spreads that weren't actually double page spreads but standalone pages, but you know, combine the colours and work together. And very much been playing around with gel crayons, oil pastels, all sorts of different media, sticking on glitter and, you know, sequins and, not sequins, but, you know, like glittery things, stars. Using acrylic paint in the background so that I could use these really vibrant colours on top of it. So this book really has been a very much a play book, and that's partly because it copes with a lot. It allows me to put lots of stuff at it before it's fallen apart and pages have fallen out and so on. But the drawing style and the composition being what it is invites lots of playing with colour. It invites lots of playing with backgrounds. If you don't want to draw, you can stick things in. You could add stencils. You can do all sorts of stuff. So very much Camilla Derrico's style does that for me. So that is best book for practicing new techniques. Okay, most affordable but great quality. I found this one really hard to answer. So I've got here a brand new copy of Mythomorphia. I do have one that I've already worked in, but I found that Kirby Roseanne's earlier books have started to come up for sale on Amazon really cheap sometimes. I'm not sure, but I might have picked this up for as little as $9 maybe. And I've also found that his books have been appearing in big box discount type stores here where I live in Australia, so Big W, Target, Kmart, those sorts of places, and they've been very reasonably priced, much cheaper than what Amazon even have had them for sale. And Kirby Roseanne's book is very good quality. Here in Australia we get mostly Lom Art edition publishings, and they are stitch bound, so they cope with water quite well. It's quite a hefty size book, so I think is it 10 by 10 is the size of it. It's got a hell of a lot of pictures in there to colour. I find that, yeah, I can only speak about what I get here in Australia, but this paper copes with quite a beating from me. So I've got to say that I think that Kirby Roseanne's earlier books, especially the new releases, obviously they're more expensive, but eventually they'll go down in price as well probably. But earlier books are really good value for money. Number 16, book you recommend to beginners. I couldn't come up with one for that, to be honest. All I would say, you know, a book to recommend to beginners would be one that you pick up and you look at the pictures and you're excited by them. You know, if it's a subject that you like, a style that you like, and you're excited about it, you will want to colour in it. I find personally that the books that I feel a bit sort of reluctant to pick up and colour in are ones that for some reason they're really not exciting me and dragging me in, or you know, the paper quality's letting it down or whatever. But yeah, I found that a really hard question to answer, to be honest. And 17, book that sparks your creativity. It's the same as 14. Best book for practicing new techniques. These books, they spark my creativity and make me want to have a good play with different things. So I sort of felt that was the same question. 18, most nostalgic or childhood inspired book. I've got 2 here to share with you for 2 very different reasons, really. Crystal Vogel's, I won't try to pronounce the name, but this is one of her earlier ones. I find this is hugely nostalgic because it reminds me of Enid Blyton books. The style of illustration reminds me of those books that were around when I was a child learning to read. And quite often, you know, the books that we had then, children's books, didn't necessarily have a lot of colour in them. So there was, you know, quite a few that had black and white illustrations. But I find this particular style of Crystal Vogel's to be very nostalgic. It brings back memories of, you know, reading and colouring books from my childhood. And also I've got the Dr. Seuss colouring book. Now I haven't actually coloured in this because I first got this book a couple of years ago and coloured in 1 page. I hadn't even finished 1 page and all the pages started to fall out of it. So I returned it to Amazon and they sent me a new book. And I feel like this one will probably end up doing the same. It's only glue bound. But the pictures in this particular book are quite nostalgic because, you know, Dr. Seuss books have been around for what feels like forever. And this book was very reasonably priced, so that's why I picked it up. A lot of repeating patterns and so on, but yeah, just a bit of fun. So that's the 2 books I wanted to share with you for most nostalgic or childhood inspired. A book with a variety of pages. Well, I've had to go with R.J. Hampson again, and I could have picked any of his books to share with you for, you know, this particular question. The most variety of pages, and I found it difficult to answer because a lot of my books that I've got in my collection are usually following a theme. So it could be Alice in Wonderland, it could be tarot, it could be astrology, it could be, you know, like Mythomorphia is a myth. Dark Fairy Tales is all about fairy tales. So a lot of the pictures are very similar and have a theme. Whereas I find with R.J. Hampson books, even though he has a theme a lot of the time, his pages are different in that, you know, you've got a full page in a border there. We've got an unusual shape there, again there. We've got animals, we've got buildings, we've got nature, we've got funny scenes like this that tell a story. Again, you know, an unusual shape, different elements. You've got architectural with natural, with animals. You've got humour, you've got a lot of fun. You know, you've got lots of things to look at on some pages. Some pages have got less to look at, more open space, bigger areas to just have places to rest your eye. You've got recurring themes, you've got characters you may have seen in other books, or you know, stories that were started in other books. So I've chosen R.J. Hampson for that reason, and just about any of his books you will find this same variety in them. Now there is only the one style of drawing, but most colouring books you find that because it's that artist's particular style, and you know, so their book will reflect that. But you know, we've got all sorts of little stories going on in these books by R.J. Hampson. So that's what I've chosen for that one. A seasonal favourite, spring, summer, autumn, winter. I'm not really a seasonal colourist. I don't tend to worry too much about that. And I don't have very many Christmas inspired or pure Halloween books or whatever. I've got a couple, but that's not really, you know, that's not really my thing. But I chose this one because it is a Christmas book, so that's as seasonal as I get, really. And I have coloured quite a few pages in this particular one, so I thought that I would share a few of those pages with you here. You see, I've got some that I haven't actually finished. Lots of yellowing, which I didn't realise that was going to happen. Oh dear. So, yeah, this is about as seasonal as I get, really. I don't have a real interest in having a book with just one season, although I do have Rita Berman's spring book, but I just haven't coloured in it. Same thing about Annie Day's autumn book. I thought that I would colour in that. Haven't really reached for it, so this is probably, you know, as seasonal as I get. So that one's the Christmas one. And next one, most whimsical or fun. Well, you just knew it had to be another RJ book. And I would have to say any of his books again, but particularly Mr. Fogarty. So Around the World is what I've chosen for this one. The adventures that Mr. Fogarty goes on, Mr. Fogarty as a character, plus his supporting characters, that his friends that are with him, are just so whimsical, and there's a lot of fun in these images. You know, there's a lot of little jokes if you really study RJ's pictures. He does have a humorous take, or he's poking a bit of fun at something, or whatever. So yeah, most whimsical or fun. I'd have to say any R.J. Hampson book, but particularly Mr. Fogarty. Most realistic or nature-inspired book, Layla Julie. So Walk in the Woods, Beautiful Planet. They are just so intricate, these images, and they're very lifelike. And of course, you know, you can look up the flowers. They are drawn so lifelike that they are recognisable, and you can look them up. She has the names in the back as well, and you can colour them very realistically. So haven't done an awful lot in it, and that's because realism isn't doing it for me currently. My taste has changed, and I've gone for different sort of books completely. And last but not least, the book you have ignored the longest and is uncoloured, Layla Julie again. And I've got, I'll leave that there actually. I've got The Flower Year. So I bought this quite a few years ago now, and I bought the matching journal, and I did start to do a bit of drawing in the journal, but I just found this completely not uninspiring, but I look at it and I feel like I can only colour it one way, and that is to colour it realistically. And at the moment, my particular interest, my particular style is not supporting that. And to do anything other than that in this book, I think would be a travesty, because it's so beautiful. So I would rather sit here and look at an uncoloured book of this quality with the line work and enjoy the artwork and the line work for what it is, rather than colour it in a way that I don't think does it justice. And at this present moment in time, I may change. You know, nothing's forever. I do feel like my choices and my style have evolved a lot over the years. So that's not to say that I won't come to this book at some point in time. I probably will. But that's how I feel about it at present. So it might be like Ink House and never ever get coloured in, but I won't be sad about it, and I don't regret buying it at all. So that is number 23. So thank you if you've stuck it out with me. I'm not going to tag anyone specifically, because I know there's already been quite a few of these videos done and people tagged, so I won't tag anyone specifically. But I will say that if you are interested in doing this particular video, please do it. You can tag me so that I see it, and please tag Shell, or give her some credit for the tag. It's Shell's Colouring Journey. The details will be in the description box. So thank you if you have stuck it out with me, and I hope that you've seen some different books and maybe heard a slightly differing viewpoint on some of them.